In this video, I will share 7 principles to enhance your psilocybin journey. Psilocybin, the psychoactive compound of the so-called magic mushroom and truffle. I'd like to state that my personal view of psilocybin is based around its utilization for spiritual development. After dozens of solo trips and facilitating numerous journeys for others, I feel compelled to share my experience and knowledge on the mindful consumption of psilocybin. Even though psilocybin plays an integral part in my life and contributes to my personal well-being, I'd like to emphasize that this is not a recommendation to use psilocybin. I encourage everyone to do their own research before deciding to consume this boundary-dissolving compound. The intention of this message is to educate and inform people that are interested in the magic of psilocybin. Preparation is at least 50% of any psychedelic experience, and most of these principles are about creating the optimal mental and physical conditions before embarking on your journey. Principle 1. Set and setting. The first obvious thing to mention when discussing psychedelics is set and setting. Setting is the physical environment where the experience will take place. Especially if you're indulging for the first time, I would recommend a space that feels safe to you, preferably in the comfort of your own home or the location where you have a sense of privacy and won't be disturbed for the entirety of the journey. That also brings me to the second part of curating the ideal setting, which is to have someone there with you during the psilocybin journey, sober and preferably with psychedelic experience. It should be a person you trust and intuitively feel safe to be around. Set, which is short for mindset, pertains to your mental state at the time of consumption. Think of your preparation, your personality type and mood at the time of consuming the psychedelic. Be aware that everything in your psyche, conscious but especially unconscious, will be heightened during the psilocybin experience. All of your anxieties, emotions, traumas, desires, and passions can come alive and will be greatly enhanced. This could be the reason why you decided to work with psilocybin in the first place, so I won't say that I wouldn't recommend a journey. However, it becomes even more important that you're well prepared and perhaps in the presence of someone experienced who is able to guide you through some of the overwhelming moments in the journey. Principle 2. Fine-tune your dosage. Depending on your weight, intention, and experience, you should determine your psilocybin dosage. This also brings me to a quick segue about the difference between mushrooms and truffles. A lot of people are of the assumption that there is a psychoactive difference between the two, but I've had equally psychedelic and profound experiences on both of them. The main difference is that the amount of psilocybin contained in mushrooms is higher per gram than truffles, with a relevant nuance of whether or not the truffles and mushrooms are dried or fresh. This basically means you would need to consume more truffles to produce the same effect as approximately 1/3 of its weight in mushrooms. Now, if you go back to dosage, a medium trip is considered to be in the range of 7 to 10 grams of truffles, which equals to about 2.5 grams of dried mushrooms. If you have little experience or would like to have a milder trip, then this would be an excellent place to start exploring what the psychedelic experience entails. Psilocybin can be consumed in a multitude of ways. Because of its peculiar sour taste, some people find truffles especially difficult to keep down. If you have a sensitive stomach, I would recommend making a tea or smoothie. Whether you eat them raw or drink them as a tea or smoothie, the psychoactive effects won't differ significantly. Principle 3. Intention. Be aware that your journey begins days and even weeks before you ingest the actual psilocybin. Working with intention is a key aspect to getting the most out of a psilocybin journey. Establishing what specific themes you would like to focus on helps in setting a conscious direction for your journey. Perhaps you would like to address a pattern that interferes with you living your highest potential or gain more emotional insight, or maybe you're just curious and open to the psilocybin experience. Setting a specific intention and reflecting on it consciously prior to the journey will help instill your intent in a subtle or subconscious mind. Purposely influencing this dimension is your part in the co-creative process. Principle 4. Eat light. Whenever I facilitate a psilocybin session for someone, I advise them to adopt a lighter vegetarian diet at least a few days before the journey. Besides the physical aspect of requiring more energy to process animal produce, it also helps you become more receptive to intuitive and spiritual insights. On the day of the journey, it's recommended to fast from solid foods for a minimum of 5 hours and consume the psilocybin mushrooms or truffles on an empty stomach. Principle 5. Use your intuition. I'd like to emphasize the importance of your intuition, especially considering set and setting. Curate your environment with care and intention, and only allow people and energies into the space who intuitively resonate with you. To feel some kind of discomfort or apprehension is considered to be a natural response to have before embarking on a journey into the unknown. But stay connected enough to yourself to discern whether or not the vibe feels right. Time and duration. So this is not necessarily a principle, but important to note nonetheless. You should be aware how long a psilocybin journey generally lasts, but also that your experience of time might be distorted by the psychedelic. This second part can contribute to both paranoia and euphoria, depending on the pleasantness of the moment. The first effects will be noticeable between 20 to 45 minutes after ingestion. A psilocybin journey generally lasts about 4 to 6 hours depending on your dosage and experience, with the peak usually starting in the second hour and lasting anywhere between 90 minutes and 2 hours. In the come-down phase of the trip, the psychedelic effects will fade slowly but can still be felt on a subtle level. Make sure that after ingestion, you don't have any obligations for the rest of the day. Don't drive, don't work, don't do anything that requires you to be on, basically. Principle 6. Surrender. Once you've consumed the psilocybin, there is no way back. Realize that you've taken a psychedelic substance, and for the coming hours, you're at the mercy of it. Letting go is a common phrase in the world of entheogens. Trying to forcefully control the experience is futile and will only make things less comfortable. In my experience of psilocybin, it's like getting a spiritual treatment, and the less I interfere with it, the more I will benefit. This might sound counterintuitive, but the best way to deal with sensations of discomfort during a journey is to surrender to them. Surrendering is not an act of passivity, but actually actively letting go of resistance. Don't suppress the difficult sensations and emotions, but instead try to create space for them. It is our own response to fear that determines our experience. This is also where a guide or sitter can be useful and receive whatever it is you like to express openly and without judgment. Having a notebook to write or draw on can also alleviate some tension. Another tip to clear out energy is to act upon your bodily signals. When you feel like lying down or closing your eyes, standing up, moving around, maybe cry or even dance, shout, feel encouraged to do so. Sometimes we need to bypass our own cognition and instead give in to the intuitive intelligence of the body. Bad trips. To be honest, I don't subscribe to the notion of bad trips. I do, however, understand and acknowledge that a psilocybin experience can be overwhelming and filled with challenging moments. When you experience a difficult phase in a journey, try to create more body awareness. Use your breath and the senses to get in contact with the present moment. Gaze at the horizon, listen to soothing music, or burn some Palo Santo or sage. Affirm to yourself that you're safe and that this unpleasant feeling, as with all things, will eventually pass. Try to be mindful of your consumption and approach every journey with respect and humility. Steadily build your way up to higher doses. Develop a mindfulness or meditation practice that can help you become more centered. Again, have someone present who is sober and experienced in the field of psychedelics. Just their presence can make a big difference whether things escalate or not. Principle 7. Enjoy the ride. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, is that you allow yourself to enjoy the process. Psychedelic work is like the name suggests, work. Insights into traumatic experiences, healing emotional wounds, finding meaning, embodying purpose. These are themes that demand your spiritual attention and confront you with life's larger questions. But despite its existential magnitude, it remains important that we don't take ourselves too seriously. This egoic tendency is always lurking, obsessively fixated on a linear outcome. Psilocybin is a doorway into something magical, something that transcends our regular experience and has the potential to explosively open our minds and hearts. After the proper preparation, make sure you leave any rigid expectation aside and trust the intuitive intelligence of the fungi. Enjoy the ride.